The mystery begins with the scene where a boy drives a car on a silent road using a narrow shortcut through the mountains. He wishes he would have been done this Sunday. Also, his father should shift to the city by selling this old house, and why does her wife always make him send this place, when they seek a loan? He diverts to his wife Asuka, who successfully manages to evade responsibility. Being aggressive, he says he would not have needed to come to such a creepy place if Asuka had not spent all their wedding funds. He will head back to Tokyo as soon as possible. Suddenly a bicycle seems coming towards the car. The boy gets puzzled by his more closure. He fails to control steering and hits the rider. The car got hit with the tree after throwing the rider away. As the boy gains his senses, he grumbles. The rider appears out of nowhere. He comes out of the car, and notices the rider acknowledging that an ambulance must be called. He grabs his phone. He should call his father but is curious what is going to tell Asuka and work. His job now is at risk. Anyhow, he walks to the injured rider. Apologizing, he consoles him. He will call an ambulance instantly. The rider calls him asking what he was doing at that time, and how he manages to fix these injuries. He also pours his anger, declaring he will not get a breath of relief until smashing his head. He is determined to make him taste the same pain that he is going through, and running away would not change it. Later he starts laughing weirdly. The boy holds his head with tension. He suddenly notices the banner of low visibility near the roadside. He keeps hearing the rider's laugh. He is worried about his car, which is broken after hitting a maniac like this. Immersing in his thoughts, he is trying to figure out the reason for the rider's appearance with no lights in the dark night. He is not getting any idea how he could elude him, and suddenly calls the rider abusively to hold his laugh. Holding his tears, he walks to the rider asking if others' misery is a fun thing for him. Rider asks him to call for an ambulance and also police. He will tell them everything he did to him. In the next moment, the scream of the rider echoes as the boy starts to press his neck with full strength, but suddenly the scream gets silent. He left his neck, blaming him that he brings this on himself. Moreover, he should not be saying such things. He lifts his bicycle and throws it into the valley. Looking at the rider, he mutters, "This is all left." The very next moment, the boy startles hearing the middle-aged voice inquiring about the situation. He gets confused and points to the rider, saying someone has collapsed here and he thought he should call an ambulance. The man walks to the rider, but the boy suggests not touching. He walks to the rider and responds he is dead. In discomfort, the boy replies he also wondered if he was sick but seemed to be talking a few minutes ago. The man asks if this gentleman was able to talk. The boy mutters he seemed healthy a bit ago. The man gestures to him to come and see. The rider's neck is brutally twisted even though the face is completely curled. The boy is shocked to see this even though his eyes are widened with fear. He ponders he just wrung his neck. The man doubtfully glares at him. The boy tries to clarify he is not lying. But the man asks the boy to see the hands. His hands and body are spotted with the red stains. The man tells him great accidents have occurred here before and the current thing to talk about is, he might lend a hand. Dragging the rider's arm, he informs him a ropeway runs through the mountains. The boy asks about it and the man acknowledges it is called passage for the things who don't belong to this world. Its distance from valley to that mountain and intersects where he was earlier. Lifting the corpse of the rider, the man wants to know if this can speak and tells him the specters carry off the corpses. Moreover, the words he had heard earlier belonged to a specter, one that was carrying off the remains. They put him in the grave and pour the remaining soil. The boy thinks about the crazy personality of the man, but somehow it is perfect. He needs to say, he requests him to lend a hand to help if by chance this matter leaks. If the insurance company inquires about the car, he would easily say he was inattentive, but currently he needs to clean the red stains from the road. And later he needs to act perfect, so he can go back to his old life. The man mutters he should be heading back now. After keeping the digging tool aside, the man prays for the corpse that no wicked thing shall take these remains now. The boy ignores his words and about to leave, telling the man not to worry about him because he will seal his mouth. But the middle-aged man requests him to stop. He tells him there is another corpse, needs to move. With disagreement, the boy says he is not getting what it has linked with him. The boy takes a pause and tells the man he still has no idea what he is saying. He is directly going home. The man calmly tells the boy he will be lost if he dares to leave him. The boy bursts with anger, he is planning to keep him to accompany him forever. The inner thoughts of the boy shouts he is just a head case and it's such an unlucky day. Suddenly, a loud noise echoes through the forest. He gets stunned that they did not walk that far. They came down, so he just needed to go up. But shockingly he notices a white light among the trees. He watches strange creatures who seem like they are walking in a row. He gazes at their elongated strange faces and wonders if they are called rope, and the words come to his mind, this intersects with the road. He starts to walk side by side with creatures. It should be up that way. Suddenly, he stops when the man warns him to not go that way while the boy ignores him and continues walking. The man silently gazes at the boy standing there, but the boy keeps walking ahead. Because he just needs to get back his car where it crashed with the tree. He keeps walking upward in the dense forest wondering if he follows this road he will go home and get back to his old life. The vice principal enters the teacher room, Shiomi-sensei working hard during summer break. Shiomi gets surprised to see the vice principal. Even in a hurry his stationery drops on the floor. The vice principal asks him to relax, he just came there by chance. He appreciates him, it's a great help they have such a young and enthusiastic teacher. Later on, the principal notices some paper in his hand. Shiomi shares his thoughts that he wants to teach the kids of their hometown what's the real worth of their hometown. In the past it was well known for buckwheat. Unfortunately many kids don't know about this. The principal mentions this hometown was barren land in the past, the only thing they could grow there was buckwheat. Shiomi calmly replies he wants to make kids learn about how their history connects their current lifestyles. Suddenly the kids calls him. He rushes to the window and sees, they are Kido and Konishi-kun, who seem threatened. Shiomi inquires Konishi about the injury on his knee and running around wild again. He gets stunned for a while, listening to Mochizuki fall into a swamp. The vice principal rushes to the window and asks about the swamp. Konishi responds, it's Kamezawa. The principal yells, saying he warned them to stay away from the cursed mountain. He hurries outside informing Shiomi that he is going to call the fire and police department. Shiomi also goes along with the principal and quickly they reach the mountain. The firefighters notice the broken wooden clogs on the ground and begin to wonder if this is how the children managed to get inside, treating the fence as nothing more than a suggestion. One suddenly turns around and checks on Shiomi, asking whether he feels comfortable in shoes. Shiomi grows uneasy and asks if the children were really playing in a place like this. The firefighter responds by sharing what he was told as a child. When his grandparents were still alive, they always warned him to stay away from this mountain at any cost. Hearing this, Shiomi begins to question whether the area is truly dangerous. The firefighter explains that the swamps here are tightly tangled together, making it easy for anyone to lose their way. He then asks if Shiomi wants to hear about the dangerous swamp where the child fell. In a low voice, he admits that the Kamezawa lies ahead, and according to old stories, its bottom is said to be endless. The word bottomless unsettles Shiomi. Another rescue member adds that children are naturally drawn to danger, which is why accidents like this happen. The firefighter continues, explaining that will-o'-the-wisps appear at night in these mountains. He also recalls something his grandmother once experienced, hearing a strange voice while gathering mushrooms. Even so, as children, they always loved listening to those eerie stories. Following the track they reach the swamp and are cleaning the area when Shiomi suddenly senses something unusual. He thinks it's a minor, perhaps just a puddle, but it appeared closer to a swamp. The firefighter asks the children to confirm whether this is the spot where Mochizuki-kun has fallen and whether they clearly remember the location. Konishi points toward an area beside the grass. The vice principal reassures the worried parents, telling them their son would be fine and that trained personnel are already searching for him. The firefighter notes that the search would not be effective within a 5-meter range and he needs another rope. Shiomi brings a rope and asks what he is going to do with it. He explains that they typically measure depth by tying a rock to the rope. Shiomi immediately points out that he has just said 5 meters and has previously claimed there is nothing there, yet now even 10 meters seems insufficient. He understands then that there is no such thing as a bottomless swamp. Their concern stems from 2 practical considerations. The high viscosity of the muddy water would prevent buoyancy, making drowning likely depending on depth. There is also the possibility of a spring feeding water into the bottom of the swamp. It was possible to measure the depth, as the area appears to be connected to an underground water source. From the way the rope descends, Shiomi estimates the depth at no more than 5 meters. As the rope nears its end, it appears unlikely to exceed 7 or 8 meters. Holding the rope at the edge, the firefighter remarks even 15 meters would not be sufficient. Hearing 15, Shiomi's thoughts get stalled. At that moment, the vice principal calls out to the firefighter, announcing the child has been found. Shiomi asks Mochizuki where he has been. He replies he was hiding to scare Konishi and Kido, went too far, and became lost. Konishi and Kido accuse him of lying, insisting they saw him fall. Crying, Mochizuki denies it and asks whether they saw any dirt on him. The vice principal steps in and tries to calm the children. Firefighter takes a breath of relief, as everyone is safe. Shiomi then notices a faint disturbance in the rope and watches as it draws slightly inward. The firefighter gathers the rope and asks his colleagues to prepare materials to repair the fence. Standing beside the swamp, Shiomi wonders whether the rope has been pulled. Soon after, everyone leaves and silence settles over the area. He leaves the area and overhears others referring to the place as Kamizawa, yet he notices there is not a single plum tree in sight. He considers this reasonable, as names and reality rarely align so directly. Unraveling the local superstition may offer an opportunity to teach the children the value of scientific reasoning. The next day, he returns to the same location and begins measuring the swamp's depth. He uses a nylon thread instead of a rope to reduce friction and better account for relative density and weight. While adjusting the knot, he notices the rock attached to it. After touching it, he wonders whether it had been there the previous day. The word burial mound is carved into the surface, written in the same notation used for Kamizawa. He reflects on the meaning of KO and considers whether the site marks a small burial or partially buried grave. This interpretation explains the absence of plum trees and strikes her as faintly ironic. He steadies herself and throws the weighted thread into the swamp. He loses his balance and steps into the water. A second slip follows, and he falls in, soaking himself completely. He pauses and tries to make himself calm. Because yesterday there was a swamp but today he did not even soak his legs. On the other side, Mochizuki and his father continue repairing the fence. His father warns him to stay away from the mountain, but the boy responds sharply, insisting he was not the one who fell. It was Konishi and Kido who fell into the swamp. Mochizuki witnessed it and became frightened, so he hid. When asked about the children who came to school, his father questioned him and sought clarification. As Mochizuki explains his perspective, his father concludes that they have seen something unfamiliar and drawn the wrong conclusion. His father hesitantly tells Mochizuki to never share the words he is going to share with him. After hearing the account, his father asks whether he knows what population control means. He does not wait for an answer. Instead, he holds Mochizuki and says such matters are not for children to understand. He explains the events took place long ago and describes the swamp as a terrible place. Mochizuki asks whether people had lived there. His father replies the surrounding land had once been barren and was now barely remembered. Famine had been frequent. When Mochizuki asks about famine, his father rudely ends the conversation and warns him the area is not a place to wander with friends. Nearby, Shiomi is trapped in the swamp and starts drowning and calls out for help. Mochizuki and his father place a "keep out" sign and walk away. He is submerged up to her neck in the swamp. The nylon reel runs out, and he sinks further. He laughs quietly, noting her assumption was correct and a spring does exist beneath the surface. Speaking to himself, he considers the possibility of a connection to a reservoir. It may even link to a subterranean lake or a limestone cavern. Despite his analysis, he calls out for help, yelling he does not want to die. He then hears a child emerging from the swamp, crying. He tells him to stay still and assures him he will find a solution. In no time as he looks around, more children begin to surface, all crying and calling for help. Here the question arises, why it seems these children, swamp and population control have some relation. Unable to respond, he listens as the voices gradually fade into silence. The following day, two children pass through the jungle. One tells the other finally they have found a bottomless swamp and should investigate it. Nearby, Shiomi's body lies on the ground, partially eaten. It seems as if he has passed through a very brutal death. One boy requests he wants to go home and does not want to get into trouble. This swap may be used to kill kids and his grandma told him that it was a secret. He recalls telling grandma that he did not want to hear her horror stories, declaring these stories are all the truth. Here the second mystery ends. During the walk, a boy glances back at his slower companion. If they do not make it quick, they risk reaching the mountain as darkness falls. The girl walking with him teases the slower boy, laughing at his hesitation. The first boy responds calmly, explaining he had only suggested a small gathering and questioning why anyone would assume it involved mountain climbing. The girl smiles, watching his reaction, and finds herself reminded of past memories. Walking in the center, the second guy addresses their last companion, Sato, and proposes a race to the ridge. Sato, clearly tired, declines and remarks on how little the first boy has changed since their youth. The first boy counters lightly, saying Sato is the one behaving like a child. Sato asks why he said that. The first boy explains that their friend is celebrating a wedding next month, noting it is a shotgun wedding. Sato is taken aback by the news. He adds that the friend's business is doing well now that his father has passed it on. The second boy, smiling, shares his thoughts on selecting a name. The girl points toward the mountain, confirming its location, and Sato exhales in relief. The first boy takes a sip of water and expresses his happiness, feeling a sense of calm. The girl, smiling, remarks that mountain climbing is all about moments like this. Suddenly, all four are startled by a scream from the woods. Excited, the girl points toward the sound and asks her companions to pay attention. The second boy, Yamada, shouts in response, while the girl bursts into laughter. The first boy explains he shouted to hear his own echo and adds there is no need to make such a fuss. Soon, 3 more climbers scream, followed by a chorus of echoes. The girl reports seeing a strange figure in the woods, but the first boy ignores her observation. Sato, the girl, and the first boy continue walking, while Yamada stops behind. Sato briefly considers returning here after quitting his job, imagining spending weekends climbing mountains. He quickly dismisses the thought, deciding he does not plan to return to Tokyo. He is busy making plans to earn money with Yamada's help when the first boy asks about him. The girl, glancing back, replies that Yamada has been left behind. The first boy, frustrated, criticizes him, saying his idleness would cause delays and that he always behaves this way. He pauses, wondering whether he should hold back from yelling. Yamada responds anxiously, insisting he is not the subordinate and asking if getting married is supposed to be enjoyable for him. He adds that he could only act according to his own abilities and express fatigue from being picked on. Confused, the girl asks Yamada why he is behaving this way. He gives them an angry glance and bites his lip. The first boy approaches him firmly, unaware of Yamada's actual problem but frustrated that his behavior is holding everyone back. He acknowledges that accidents can happen on mountains, while the girl seeks clarification again. Yamada silences them and instructs the first boy to bow. The first boy then asks if he intends to repeat his words. Yamada attacks the first guy, insisting he has to bow to him, while the boy struggles to escape. At one point, Yamada picks up a rock and strikes him on the forehead. The girl screams in fear, and Sato shouts at Yamada to stop. He tries to intervene, but Yamada throws him aside and continues the assault. The girl and Sato are unable to say anything. After killing the first boy, Yamada turns his attention to them. Seeing Yamada's ferocious expression, Sato urges the girl to run. They begin fleeing through the woods, with Yamada following. As they run, the girl observes Yamada closely, curious about his condition. Sato considers returning to the main path, but the girl stops him, suggesting the path along the mountain is safer despite leading in the same general direction. During a brief pause, Sato looks back to determine if they have taken a different ridge and if the route will allow them to return. The girl grows more concerned, noticing signboards but having no clear plan. Sato remains unaware of the full extent of the danger they face. Sato asks her to stop increasing the tension and suddenly notices Yamada collapsed on the ground. Startled, both of them call out to him. Yamada lies unconscious, and they approach with hesitation. He opens his eyes and looks at them weakly. Sato steps closer, uncertain whether the figure before him is real. When he touches Yamada's face, the skin gives way under his fingers. This reaction heightens their fear. As Sato places both hands on his face, Yamada's features distort and harden into a husk-like form. Suddenly a shrike from behind grabs their attention. They turn to see in that direction. A moment later, Yamada appears again, creeping out from the shrubs with a completely altered appearance. He calmly orders them to bow in his altered voice and ferocious eyes. He attacks Sato first, opening his mouth unnaturally wide, resembling a snake. The girl freezes and collapses to the ground in shock. The lower half of Yamada's body begins to dissolve into a slime-like mass. Sato struggles to evade the attack and eventually manages to break free, while the girl remains stunned. The girl astonishingly sees Sato leaning against a tree, visibly exhausted, while Yamada lies motionless on the ground. As the sky begins to lose its brightness, Sato looks around, uncertain how to proceed. He remains silent, aware he has no light with him. A rustle sounds in the distance. The girl becomes hopeful and starts calling for help. Soon, multiple climbers respond with noise from the surrounding area. Sato steps closer to the girl to speak to her, and realizes she is frozen in place. A young man sits on a roadside bench, relaxing after dinner. It was a farewell party, though to him it felt like any ordinary lunch and dinner. Suddenly, a thought came to him. His colleague suggested they might work together again in the future. The idea irritates him, and he resolves not to return to such an unusual place. He glances at a nearby frame and realizes it had been a long time since he last visited the Tokyo headquarters. In a moment of carelessness, he discards the frame. Later, he informs his girlfriend that he will be coming tomorrow. Moments later, he notices a station with its lights still on. Walking over, he searches inside. No one has turned off the lights in the unmanned station. Seeing the remains of food and drinks, he assumes someone from the company has been there. He calls out, asking if the person still drank. Looking around, he walks to the main door, dismissing the place as silly. He grabs the knob and tries to open it, but it does not budge. Peering through the glass, he saw nothing outside. Turning back, he tells his colleague to stop fooling around and reveal himself. Receiving no response, he begins to question his own judgment. He focuses on understanding how the place operates with such services. After one round of inspection, he returns to the door, attempting repeatedly to open it. After several attempts, he felt thirsty. To his surprise, a water bottle emerges from the refrigerator. The bottle slips, rolling toward him, causing him to startle. He shouts for help, grabs a stool, and strikes the window. The glass did not break, leaving him shocked at its sturdiness. After leaving the stool, he suddenly hears a voice calling out. The lid of the water bottle opens by itself, and he stares at it in fear. The unknown voice instructs him to sit in the chair and drink the water. He scans the room, trying to locate the source. Refusing, he shouts that he has no reason to drink it. The bottle moves to his mouth, forcing him to drink. When it empties, it leaves his lips while he coughed. Standing up, he hears the window slide open. Shocked, he approaches the glass, and looks outside, but notices nothing. His gaze fell on the chair. He approaches it and removes his tie, sensing a strange, merciful presence. Curiosity prompts him to ask if the presence belongs to a woman. Excitement surges when his impression seems correct. Outwardly, he praises the station. Inwardly, he realizes it might be a woman holding him hostage. The unknown presence passes through him. He wonders if it is so lonely that it causes her pain. He regrets his thoughts, realizing he has to say goodbye to such a welcoming station and face being alone in Tokyo. Determined, he decides to stay in the village. He would use the station every day, cleaning every corner until it shone. A sharp light suddenly appears outside the hall. A train stops at the station, leaving him surprised. He has not expected a last train. In disbelief, he watches the person stepping off, being Mari-chan. Emotion overwhelmed him. She had come all the way from Tokyo on his last workday. The hall door opens, and Mari freezes, startled to see him. She tells him he has scared her, and later she asks why he did not notice her outside. Overcome with emotion, he sinks to the ground saying she saved him, but Mari helps him up. The station behaves unusually. Concerned, Mari asks if something is wrong or if he is drunk. Her expression shifts, signaling discomfort, and she stops him from creeping closer. In the next moment the body of Mari sticks to the window in front of him. The ghost from her body enters the station, and growls demonically. He steps back, and gets by an unexpected fear. Crying out, he demands to know why she has done this to Mari. He wants to understand the intentions. It has never made sense that she is in love with him. He glances around in astonishment, gradually noticing how the daily objects seem connected to the ghost. The spirit moves toward him, slowly taking the form of a frail, elderly woman. It stands silently in front of him. He gets stunned with fear and falls to the ground. After that, everything goes quiet. The next day, two men pass by the station. One explains to his companion that the young man has worked for their company. The colleague asks why he has been sitting there in such a state. They see him alone sitting there. The first man recounts that the young man was supposed to return to Tokyo after completing his assignment. Instead, he has brought a residence to the station, an action that made little sense. We see he is not sitting alone, but that wounded lady is also along with him, who is invisible to all the outsiders of the station. Few people could claim to be as unlucky as the young boy, who often described himself that way. His misfortune began when his mother disappeared 2 years earlier. Shortly afterward, his elder sister died in a car accident. Not long after that, his father succumbed to pancreatic cancer. His childhood friends perished in an accident while traveling to a class reunion trip. Relatives followed, one after another, until 2 days ago, his last cousin passed away. Now truly alone in the world, he returns to his hometown for the first time in years to inherit his father's mountain estate, which he and his late cousin had managed. The old man addresses him as Hanayama-kun. Hanayama responds with surprise, recognizing the principal, and expresses his pleasure at meeting him. The principal calls out loudly that Hanayama's son has come back. The boy looks at the people standing on the other side, shouting that it really is Hanayama boy. The boy calmly asks whether he had made any commitments. Suddenly a guy approaches from behind, picks up a stick and strikes Hanayama's son on the head, claiming the village would be saved. Later they throw him in the well and the boy lies to the depth of the well, unconscious. After some time he slowly regains his consciousness and slowly opens his eyes. He quickly sits up and tries to understand what has happened. He gets frightened to see himself that I in the well. Looking upward, he shouts, asking if anyone is there to help him. Suddenly he feels something is touching his feet. As he looks down he notices touches of a skeleton face, sending a jolt of fear through him. He shouts, calling for someone to help him escape the place. A few minutes later, the principal appears at the neck of the well, leaving Hanayama's son surprised. Hanayama's son speaks, introducing himself. He requests the principal to fetch help, but the principal ignores him and instructs him to lay the remains to rest. Hanayama looks at the bones and slowly understands the meaning behind the principal's words. When he looks up, the principal has disappeared. Throughout the day until evening, Hanayama continues calling for someone. Helpless, he sits in the depth of the well starving. It is very harsh to think so. He has never imagined spending a night in such a place. Also he is thirsty as well. Suddenly the black smoke appears looking like a stain, and Hanayama examines it carefully, wondering if it was just a stain. From the smoke, a body takes form, leaving him speechless. Fear grips him as he struggles to speak, staring at the figure looking down upon him. He gets extremely frightened with fear, and his voice is echoing well. The next day, Hanayama's son thinks about the events of the previous night. It had not been a dream or his imagination. Fearfully, he knows he has to lay those things to rest and face what has happened. He stares at the skull, questioning himself. He is not insane, nor could he imagine doing such things, but why is he the one who has to suffer? Suddenly someone from the well opening calls cursed. Two old women appear, leaving Hanayama speechless. One of them says that he receives 3 meals a day, a roof, and a bed for sleep. Looking down the well, she oddly asks why he wants more than that. The other explains that the women of the village have been performing these acts for generations. The first woman adds that cheating is a man's pride, and the ladies have been treated worse than cattle. Even an ox earns more than him. The second woman says that everyone is tired of dealing with him. If he wishes to die, he should have done it quietly on his own. She spits in his face with hatred and leaves with her companion. The boy requests them to stay and talk to him but they both leave. As night falls, he helplessly bows his head to the ground. The same black smoke figure appears. In the days and nights that followed, Hanayama begins to pray and beg them to be at peace. He weeps, asking for forgiveness and a reprieve from his suffering. The black smoke figure of a woman appears, staring at him. When he looks up, his jaw drops in shock. His eyes widen with astonishment that it is his mother. He speaks to her, explaining that he has searched everywhere when she went missing. Respectfully, he bows his head, understanding why the villagers have urged him to lay her to rest. He asks whether they have wronged her or if they have been worshipping her. For a while she remains silent and glares at the boy. But later she starts repeating the word, die, continuously. Hanayama hears the screams of the village residents calling for help, for children, for fathers. He is surprised to see his mother smiling while hearing the cries. When he gets rescued from the well, he finds the village in ruins by fire. He has no way to determine whether it had been caused by his mother's curse or a chain of misfortunes. The origin of the fire remains unknown. 20 years have passed since that incident. With all the villagers gone, no further details can ever be discovered. Even now, his mother's spirit is cursing the village and the mountain. Hanayama's son determines that until the day he dies, he will continue to appease her mother's vengeful spirit, making rounds through rain and wind. At Dozawa Campground, managed by Yumiki Village, a radio announcement reports that inland weather will remain clear through the night, with a 10% chance of rain. Despite the relatively high temperature the previous evening, the forecast estimates a daytime high of 27 degrees. The young man steps out of the building and, feeling an unexpected chill, decides to prepare dinner before sunset. He begins by preparing a special barbecue sauce, the key ingredient being hacho miso. He notes that he forgot to bring cabbage and reminds himself to include it on his next trip. As dusk settles, he takes a bite of his meal with a drink and remarks that camping is enjoyable. Later, while drinking beer in daylight, he takes a selfie and attempts to upload it to Instagram. Upon reviewing the photo, he is momentarily unsettled. He looks behind him but finds nothing out of place. He rushes to the tent, wondering whether someone has entered it. Uneasy, he looks again at the selfie and zooms in, trying to identify the figure he believes went inside. As he stands beside the tent, a radio broadcast suddenly comes through. The announcement reports that a suspect has escaped from police custody. The individual is charged with robbery and murder and was last seen at a convenience store along the prefectural road. He is wearing the same clothes as at the time of his escape and is reported to be moving in the direction of Yumiki Village. The news unsettles him. The location mentioned matches exactly where he is standing. He glances between the tent and his phone, increasingly tense, and wonders whether the figure in the photo is the same person described in the broadcast. He picks up his knife and, holding it defensively, calls out the person inside the tent. He asks if anyone is inside and demands a response, repeating that he saw someone enter. As he brings the knife close and touches the tent, a voice speaks from within. The voice warns him to leave immediately, stating that it is armed and that he will be hurt if he does not run. At that moment, he understands that the person inside the tent is the suspect mentioned on the radio. He takes out his phone to contact the police but finds there is no signal. He runs to his car, reasoning that there should be reception near the convenience store at the base of the mountain. A radio update interrupts his thoughts. The broadcast reports that a customer visiting a drive-in near the Kumezawa Iron Bridge along the prefectural road discovered a man, believed to be the store owner, collapsed inside the shop. The man was transported to the hospital and later pronounced dead. Police are investigating a possible connection to the escaped suspect. He wonders whether the suspect came into the mountains after killing the store owner, given how close the location is. As he drives, he reaches a fork in the road and chooses one direction, assuming it leads downhill. Continuing forward, he notices the mountains becoming denser, raising concern that he may be lost. His doubt deepens when the convenience store, normally 10 minutes away, fails to appear even after 30 minutes of driving. He notices another campsite sign and stops the car. He steps out and walks toward a nearby tent, assuming someone may be there. From a distance, he hears children playing. As he moves closer, he realizes the children appear unnatural as they continue playing with a frisbee. When one girl fails to catch it, the frisbee lands near him. She runs forward to retrieve it and looks at him. The young man freezes at the sight of her face and, overwhelmed, turns and runs. Her appearance is severely damaged, and he instinctively avoids any further interaction. Reaching the main road, he discovers that his car is gone. He looks around and assumes it has been taken, certain he locked it. He runs along the prefectural road, but no vehicles pass. Exhausted and distressed, he calls out for help, hoping to reach anyone. As darkness falls, he finds himself back at his original campsite. He stops, staring in disbelief at his tent standing exactly where he first camped. He becomes more frightened upon hearing a scream from the restroom area. As the voices grow louder, he rushes back to his tent for shelter. Inside, he grips his shirt tightly when he notices a shadow coming towards him. The voice asks if there is someone inside. If yes, then say something. The man speaks to him in the same tone as before. I have got a knife. If you don't want to get injured, then scream quickly. He cries out in fear, and the voices fall silent. Shortly after, the radio broadcasts an update. It reports that the body of an adult male, believed to have been murdered, has been found at Yumanoma, not far from Dozawa No. 1 campground. The announcement further states that the bodies of 3 individuals, believed to be members of a family, have also been discovered. Police continue to investigate a possible connection to the drive-in store owner's murder.